You know, I used to tell the same story about my father when I was 18, but then kind of recently I started to like look at my life as a whole and realize maybe there was adversity that dated farther back than this one experience. So both of my parents were diagnosed with cancer when I was a teenager. So my dad had prostate cancer, and he was diagnosed when I was 10, and then he was going through chemotherapy and radiation, and we kind of thought he had a handle on it. My parents had gotten divorced at the time, so he was living in New York. We were living in Phoenix, Arizona, and as I remember it, you know, it was like, oh, my dad has this cancer, but he's getting all the necessary treatment and everything's fine. And he still looked great to me. He was a young 45-year-old dad. And then halfway through my high school career, I was 15, and I remember my mom coming to me and saying, you know, Stephanie, I just had a scan done and they found a tumor in my neck. And so she was diagnosed with, I forget the actual name, but it was something like in the lymph nodes inside her neck and in her throat. And because my dad had had his cancer treatment at Memorial Sloan Kettering, New York, they thought the best thing for my mom was to do that. So I almost forgot about this, like, as I got older, because now I look back and I'm like, okay, so dad was going through cancer, and then my mom left me with my grandma in the middle of my sophomore year, and then she moved to New York for a few months and had cancer treatment at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And I don't know, as a 16-year-old, I just was like, yeah, this is just normal life. Like, both of my parents have cancer. It's not that big a deal. And I was kind of, I don't know if distracting myself, but I was being like a naughty teenager. I was partying. I was just like living a really carefree life as I remember it. And at the time, I was on the cross country and track team in high school, and much to my coach's chagrin, I didn't show up for practice very often. I was late all the time, and running was just not a priority for me. But a few years later in high school, my mom came back home, and you know, she was healthy. The cancer, she had radiation, and the cancer had shrunk and the tumor had shrunk, so we're scot-free, as we say. But what I didn't realize at the time was my dad's health was declining even more. But since we weren't living together, I kind of didn't see it on a day-to-day basis. So I remember halfway through my senior year, he just basically called us and said, you know, my prostate cancer has now spread and they found it in his liver. And I'm gonna have to go on aggressive chemotherapy, and we're gonna just, you know, see how this plays out. So I had this like feeling, or like a hunch, about 6 months later after he told us that, I'm like, I think I need to go visit him. But it was like my senior year, and I felt like I was really selfish because I just wanted to hang out with my friends. My track season was starting, but something told me like I should go visit him. And for whatever reason, like none of my older brothers came with me, and I had 3 older brothers at the time. And when I look back now, I find that so strange that no one wanted to come. So as an 18-year-old, we just booked me a ticket. I flew out to New York by myself and stayed with some family friends in Long Island. And he was living in Manhattan at the time, getting treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And I remember waking up on Saturday morning, and I was gonna take the train from Long Island to Manhattan, and I went for a run. And I just had the strangest feeling on that run, something that I couldn't really put words to. I couldn't describe what it was. And I came home, and my stepmom was on the phone, and she said, Stephanie, your father passed away. And of course I was like, no, I'm about to go like get on a train to see him. That's not true. And she said, yeah, he passed away in the last hour. And I think what I realized was that feeling that I had, I wasn't like a very spiritual person, but perhaps he passed through me because he actually died while I was on that run. And honestly, it changed the trajectory of my life and my running, because running was no longer something that I had to do. It was something that I get to do, and it became a gift. And I don't know, I was faced with a circumstance at a very young age where 18 years old, you're learning who you are, you're becoming an adult, and I could have chose one path, but I feel like I chose this path. And now when I look back, you know, 18 years ago, I see where different paths have taken the rest of my family and my brothers and my mom. And I feel like running honestly saved my life, because I had a choice, and I made a choice to go this way and not this way. And now I'm living my absolute like dream job. I get paid to run for a living. I connect with people like all over the world. I've gotten to travel all over the world because of training and racing, introduced my kids to running. I met my husband Ben through running. Yeah, and I just see how there's such power in choice. And then I think that choice then sets us up to have the chance for success. So you have to make the choice to go down one route in order to have the chance to be successful, or to, yeah, have opportunities present themselves. Because if you never make that one choice, yeah, you'll never kind of see what chance you could have.